welcome back to another video, or if you guys are new here, hello, my name is Nicole, but you can call me Nikki. I am a freelance visual artist, and if you want to see more of my work, check out my page and click that subscribe button. So today I am going to review this BAOHONG watercolor paper. It's 300 GSM and 100% cotton. I've been meaning to buy this after having the experience of painting on Arches. Arches is a premium paper and it's really expensive and out of my budget for now, so I got BAOHONG instead. This paper comes in blocks and is glued on all sides, so you need to use a palette knife or that lift blade that you can buy separately to remove the sheets. The lift blade was sold out, so I'm going to use my palette knife, and to be honest, I have no idea how this works because I've only bought paper in sheets, and then I found out that there is this small opening without glue, and that is where you stick in your blade and cut through the glue. And just let me remove this pink sheet first. The sheet is like a colored paper. I don't know why it has this, but maybe it acts as a protection so you won't mess up the first watercolor sheet. Well, I don't really know what this is for, to be honest. I got the cold press watercolor paper, so it has a slightly textured surface. I love my paper with textures. Maybe I should have opted for the rough texture, but it's kind of hard to find it. It's always sold out, so I guess maybe next time. So for the hard part, I had no idea how to separate the sheets, and I had to Google it. So the pink sheet was easier to remove. I don't even know how I did it, but I just stick the palette knife and it just went in easily. This is my first time using blocks, so you can tell I wasn't doing a really good job. Once your knife is in, gently run the knife around the edge of the sheet, like what I am doing right now. Do not cut in a sawing motion. I did that and it was a mistake, and it left a small damage on the backside of my paper. So what you have to do is just slide your knife and hope for the best. So I removed the whole thing off cam because I was having a hard time, but here it is. It left a glue residue on the edge of the paper, but it doesn't really bother me. You can easily remove it with your fingers, just peel it off the paper. The front sheet is more textured compared to the back, so if you prefer less texture, you can flip and paint on the back side. I folded it in half so I can save it for later, and now let's start to paint. I am going to use my Sakura Koi watercolor and Himimiya gouache. For today's speed paint, I chose a reference from Studio Ghibli's Totoro. First, I am going to sketch with Prismacolor Col Erase in brown, so I don't think you can see much of what I'm doing here, but I prefer sketching with a colored pencil. It looks less dirty compared to when I am using graphite. I'm sketching the basic shapes, so not too much details, just enough to know where I should paint the subjects. Since this paper is slightly textured, sketching on it would feel a little bumpy and not too smooth. And I'm painting on the front side, so I guess it'll be less bumpy. If you're working on the smoother side, so first impression, the paint applied really well. I'm just using a fair amount of water here. It didn't buckle and it absorbed the paint pretty good. I'm gonna start with an underpainting and I'm using more water to apply a thin wash. And so far I am loving it. This paper can compete with arches. I've tried the rough textured arches watercolor paper and I instantly fell in love, and it's just different. After using it, it just doesn't feel the same way painting on 200 GSM watercolor paper. I only had 2 small sheets of arches and I couldn't stop thinking of painting on 100% cotton. Compared to my Canson Montval 300 GSM, BAOHONG does a great job absorbing the paint and water like arches. The water builds up on my Canson Montval and on my Fabriano, so the watercolor just moves around the paper and it creates a puddle, which I don't like. Plus, if you're using a 200 GSM watercolor paper and you're doing heavy washes, it will surely buckle. I am now applying my second layer of watercolor. I am painting the tree first and the paper is doing a great job and I am not seeing any peeling or small paper fibers when I'm scrubbing my brush on the paper. Usually peeling happens when you're using the wrong paper for watercolors or other medium that requires a lot of ink or water, so make sure that you are using a minimum of 200 GSM paper when dealing with paint. I also noticed that my paint dries faster on 100% cotton, so you gotta be fast if you're going to use the lifting technique because the color will stick on the paper. And I don't know if it's because of the paper or my paint, but if you're using Sakura Koi and BAOHONG, it won't lift easily. I love layering on this paper since it absorbs the paint perfectly and I can easily add another layer on top and it dries faster compared to my Fabriano and Canson. I can work from light to dark and vice versa even with watercolors. Well, of course, if you still want to preserve the whiteness of your paper, then I don't suggest applying an underpainting. I had a hard time creating textures on the tree and I had to redo it several times, but still the paper is holding up. There's no damage or peeling whatsoever even after all of the layers I made. I kinda gave up and asked myself why I chose this reference. The lighting here is just gorgeous and just hard to achieve in my case, so I focused on other parts of the painting. So now I'm just adding more shadow, and I actually lost count of the number of layers that I painted on the tree because I was just really having a rough time creating textures. And to be honest, I don't think the colors look like how I want them to look, since of course I've probably already lifted the first layers, resulting in kind of a muddy color. So I'm adding textures and shapes with my Faber-Castell watercolor pencils and activating them with water. I've had these pencils for I think 5 years now. It was my first expensive art materials and my dad bought it for me. I was actually meaning to get the Faber-Castell's color pencils and not the watercolor color pencils, but I just noticed it when we got home and I was like, what am I going to do with this? But turns out I love them. You can use it like a normal color pencil, and you can also use it like a watercolor. I was working on the tree off cam because I was just really having a rough time. I couldn't get it to look like how I want it to look, and at this point I started using Himimiya gouache to add texture. I'm not patient with watercolor, so even when I don't want my painting to look graphic, it just ends up that way since I can't be bothered with building depth, colors, and layers with watercolor since it's transparent, but of course that'll depend on your style. Later you'll see me using my Sakura brush pen, and it works well with this paper, so if you're planning on using these with your brush pen, I say go for it. So I'll leave you guys for a few minutes, and later I will discuss about the pros and cons of this paper. So talk to you guys in a few and enjoy the video.
Thank you.
So I'm almost done with the painting, and let's go to the pros and cons. The BAOHONG watercolor paper is cheaper than Arches and it absorbs paint really well. The glue on the block allows the paper to dry flat, so if you're working with a lot of water, it's a good thing. The paper is also good for layering. It dries faster compared to my other brands that aren't 100% cotton. So for the cons, I didn't really notice any bad things. It's just that the size comes in 5x7, 10x7, 10x15, 15x21, and 15x22 inches. So it's not the normal size that we actually get. Fabriano and Canson comes in 9x12 inches, I think, and I don't think BAOHONG has that in that size. By the way, mine's the 10x7 inches. Do tell me if there are other sizes out there that I forgot to mention. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see more of my work, my socials are linked below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you guys will get notified if I posted a new video. I'll be back with more art and chit chat, so stay tuned and bye bye.